Well, hello. Welcome to another lesson. This lesson is going to be all about Moses. What happened to Moses? So I chose this picture in the background because it kind of looks like a river, right? It's actually an ocean picture. It looks like a river. And so Moses's life started on the river. So let's see what vocabulary we can learn all about Moses. Let's see what we can learn together. So we start with Exodus chapter 2, verse 2. The woman conceived and bore a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him 3 months. So we have the word conceived, conceived, conceived. This is becoming pregnant, becoming big with a baby. So she's about to have a baby. My horse conceived, and a calf ran out to me one fine morning. This actually happened to me. When I grew up, we had 4 or 5 horses, and this happened. The horse was pregnant, and in the morning, a calf literally ran up to the fence to me. Just amazing. So this is the word conceived. Exodus 2:2 then becomes, the woman became pregnant and bore a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him 3 months. So conceived. Exodus 2:3. When she could no longer hide him, she took a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and with pitch. She put the child in it and laid it in the reeds by the river's bank. So we have this word papyrus, papyrus, papyrus. This is a material made from the pithy stem of a water plant. It's used for painting and writing, so you can actually use it like paper. It is also used to make sandals, rope, and ships. So that's why they chose it to put the baby in. I found a great background for my Instagram. It looks like papyrus. So the idea of papyrus. So Exodus 2:3. When she could no longer hide him, she took a basket made from the pithy stem of a water plant for him, coated it with tar and with pitch. She put the child in it and laid it in the reeds by the river's bank. Papyrus. Exodus 2:6. She opened it and saw the child, and behold, the baby cried. She had compassion on him and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children. Compassion, compassion, compassion. Showing concern when others are in pain or are suffering in any way. A doctor who shows compassion for his patients is tops in my book. So the idea of compassion, having concern. Exodus 2:6. She opened it and saw the child, and impressively the baby cried. She had concern for him and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children. Exodus 2:11. In those days, when Moses had grown up, he went out to his brothers and saw their burdens. He saw an Egyptian striking a Hebrew, one of his brothers. Burdens, burdens, burdens. Anything we have to deal with, trouble, sickness, physical burdens, etc. So anything we're struggling with at the moment, a burden. In those days, When Moses had grown up, he went out to his brothers and saw their troubles. He saw an Egyptian striking a Hebrew, one of his brothers. Exodus 2:16. Now, the priest of Midian had 7 daughters. They came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. So we have this word troughs, troughs, troughs. This is containers for animals to eat and drink out of that are long and narrow, a trough. Was Jesus really born in a feeding trough? Good question. Troughs. Flock, flock, flock. A group of animals, such as sheep or goats, that live, eat, and move as a group. A flock of seagulls just flew overhead. So it's a flock. The seagulls move and eat and do everything together. They're a flock. In the Bible, it talks about sheep a lot, a flock of sheep, right? Exodus 2:16. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters. They came and drew water and filled the containers for animals to eat and drink out of to water their father's group of animals, their flock, their troughs. Exodus 2:21. Moses was content to dwell with a man. He gave Moses Zipporah, his daughter. Content, content, content. You feel happy and satisfied about your life. What a great word and a great feeling. I don't have much money, but I am content. Don't have money, but I'm happy and satisfied about my life. Content. Exodus 2:21. Moses was happy and satisfied to dwell with the man. He gave Moses Zipporah, his daughter. Exodus 2:22. She bore a son and named him Gershom, for he said, I have lived as a foreigner in a foreign land. Foreigner, foreigner, foreigner. A person not from the country they are living in. A foreigner. Like I live in Korea and I'm American, so I'm a foreigner here, right? This isn't my native home. Lived here a long time though, so it's becoming like home to me. So hopefully I'm less of a foreigner. We have this word 외국인, 외국인. That's the Korean word for foreigner. So I guess I'm a 외국인. Hopefully eventually I won't be so foreign. The revolutionaries shouted, we need to keep these foreigners out. We need to keep these foreigners out. Some people feel that way. Foreigner. Exodus 2:22. She bore a son, and he named him Gershom, for he said, I have lived as a person not from here in a foreign land, a foreigner. Exodus 2:23. In the course of those many days, the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed because of the bondage. And they cried, and their cry came up to God because of the bondage. In the course of, in the course of, in the course of. This is happening within a certain time period. in the course of. In the course of time, all wounds will heal. So time heals all wounds. Or in the course of time, all wounds heal. Sighed. Sighed. Exhale a long breath that shows tiredness, sadness, or relief. I'm so tired. Or, I'm so sad this happened. Sighed. Bondage, bondage, bondage. This is the state of being a slave. If you're in bondage, you're a slave. Bondage. In a certain time period, the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel exhaled deeply because of the slavery. And they cried, and their cry came up to God because of the slavery. So the idea of bondage and sigh. Exodus 2:24. God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. Groaning, groaning, groaning. A deep sound, not in actual words that show you are in despair, pain, or even pleasure. The class groaned when they heard how much homework was part of this class. Oh, teacher, we can't do all this homework. They groaned. Covenant, covenant, covenant. This is an agreement, either legally or informally. A covenant, an agreement. God heard their deep sighs, and God remembered his agreement with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. So the idea of covenant and sighs, groaning. Exodus 2:25. God saw the children of Israel, and God was concerned about them. Concerned, concerned, concerned. You were worried or anxious or troubled about something. My child had a hot forehead, and so I was concerned. Is my child okay? Concerned, concerned, concerned. So Exodus 2:25 becomes, God saw the children of Israel, and God was worried about them. Concerned. So we move on to the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 2. Speak to the children of Israel that they turn back and encamp before Pihahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, before Baal Zephon. You shall encamp opposite it by the sea. Opposite, opposite, opposite. This is on the other side facing it. So here's a street, opposite sides facing. Opposite. I can see my neighbor on the opposite side of the street. Opposite. Speak to the children of Israel that they turn back and encamp before Pihahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, before Baal Zephon. You shall encamp on the other side facing it by the sea. Opposite. Verse 5. The king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was changed toward the people. And they said, "What is this that we have done, that we have let Israel go from serving us?" Fled, fled, fled. This is to run away from danger, from a happening or a place. So you run from danger, you run from something that's going on, you run from a place. He fled the accident because his license had expired, right? He fled this accident. His license, his driver's license, the date on it was not valid. He needed to get a new driver's license. Expired means it's the wrong date. You need a new one. Fled. Exodus 14, verse 5, then becomes this. The king of Egypt was told that the people had run away, and the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants was changed toward the people. And they said, "What is this that we have done, that we have let Israel go from serving us?" Fled. Now, when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to kill Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and lived in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. So these are other uses of fled in this passage. In 27, it says this: Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its strength. When the morning appeared, and the Egyptians fled against it, Yahweh overthrew the Egyptians in the middle of the sea. So the idea of fled. He prepared his chariot and took his army with him. Chariot, chariot, chariot. This is a horse-drawn cart used in battle or racing. So I know the Romans had chariot races. I believe the Circus Maximus is where they had chariot races in Rome. Correct me if I'm wrong. So chariots. Chariot races were common in ancient Rome. Chariot. Exodus 14:6. He prepared his horse-drawn cart and took his army with him. Chariot. Verse 8 says this: Yahweh hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued the children of Israel, for the children of Israel went out with a high hand. Hardened the heart, hardened the heart, hardened the heart. To stop caring about someone or something. It also means to stop having warm feelings for someone or something. I hardened my heart against him after he left me. Right? If someone breaks up with you, you might harden your heart. Never going to talk to them again. Harden your heart. So Exodus 14 becomes this: Yahweh stopped Pharaoh, king of Egypt, from caring or having warm feelings, and he pursued the children of Israel, for the children of Israel went out with a high hand. So they have hardened the heart, hardened the heart. So here's some other uses of this word. In verse 4, it said, I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will follow after them, and I will get honor over Pharaoh. And then in verse 17, it says, behold, I myself will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they will go in after them. So they harden your heart. Verse 9 says this: the Egyptians pursued them. All the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, his horsemen, and his army overtook them encamping by the sea, beside Pihahiroth, before Baal Zephon. Pursued, pursued, pursued. This is to try and overtake or catch someone by following behind them. So someone's running and you're running behind them, right? Following and running behind. Pursued. The police pursued the white Bronco through the streets of LA. So they pursued him. And also in verse 23, they use this word again. The Egyptians pursued and went in after them into the middle of the sea, all of Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. They pursued them into the middle of the sea. The police pursued the white Bronco through the streets of LA. Pursued. Overtook. 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 To pass someone you are traveling in the same direction with. To catch up with someone you are pursuing. So you overtake them. He overtook his rival at the last second to win the race. So they're running behind, passes them, and he wins the race. Overtook. So Exodus 14:9 becomes this. The Egyptians tried to catch up with them, all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, his horsemen, and his army caught up with them, encamping by the sea, besides Pihahiroth, before Baal Zephon. So the idea of overtook and pursued, overtook them. Verse 10 becomes this. When Pharaoh came near, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they were afraid. The children of Israel cried out to Yahweh. Behold, 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 to see something awesome or impressive. Behold. Behold, the new Walmart in our town. Wow, big, beautiful new Walmart came to our town. If you don't know what a Walmart is, it's a big, huge store that sells everything. Food and tires and, candy bars and groceries and just everything you can imagine in one big building. So behold the new Walmart. And they use this word again in verse 17. Behold, I myself will harden the hearts of the Egyptians. So that has behold, harden the heart. Behold. Cried out, cried out, cried out, to call from a distance, loudly, because you are in pain, or fear, or surprise. So if you cried out, what's happening? Like I cried out when I was given the vaccine for COVID-19. When they gave me that shot, is this going to hurt? So little afraid of it. You cried out. Exodus 14:10. When Pharaoh came near, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and impressively, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they were afraid. The children of Israel called out loudly in fear to Yahweh. Called out. Exodus 14:13. Moses said to the people, "Don't be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh, which he will work for you today. For you will never again see the Egyptians whom you have seen today." Never again see them. Salvation, salvation, salvation. To deliver from ruin or harm or loss. So salvation, you're saved from it, right? You get out of ruin, you get out of harm, you get out of loss, right? Also in Bible terms, it means to deliver from sin and its consequences. Sin is when you break God's law, and that has consequences from the Bible. So salvation means, you are being delivered from something bad, from your sin and your sin's consequences. So salvation. Exodus 14:13. Moses said to the people, "Don't be afraid. Stand still and see the deliverance from ruin or harm or loss of Yahweh, which he will work for you today. For you will never again see the Egyptians whom you have seen today." So salvation. Verse 19 says this: "The angel of God who went before the camp of Israel moved and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them." Pillar, pillar, pillar. This is a tall vertical tall structure used to support a building. So a pillar holds up the building. Can be made of wood, metal, maybe stone. So the temple was adorned with 13 strong pillars holding up the building. Pillar, pillar, pillar. So pillar. So Exodus 14, the angel of God who went before the camp of Israel moved and went behind them. And the tall vertical structure of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them. So now they have a pillar behind them. Verse 24, in the morning watch, Yahweh looked out on the Egyptian army through the pillar of fire and of cloud and confused the Egyptian army. Morning watch, morning watch, morning watch. This is from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., right? The evening watch, by the way, is from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. These were called the watches. The guard took the morning watch and watched over Paul in prison. Took the morning watch from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. Morning watch. Exodus 14:24. In the time between 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., Yahweh looked out on the Egyptian army through the tall vertical structure of fire and of cloud and confused the Egyptian army. So we have this idea of pillar and morning watch. So there you have it. A lot of the history of Moses. What happened to Moses from his humble beginnings, being taken in by Pharaoh's daughter, and his life with the Egyptian people, finally leading them out of slavery, bondage. So I hope you have some very transferable words from this passage, words we can use in many different scenarios. So again, it's been my pleasure. I hope you've learned a lot. and I hope you're constantly getting better at English. Please enjoy the Bible. It's a great book. Please enjoy learning English. And I'll see you in the next lesson. Have a great time. Bye.